This is Tetris. This is the version of Tetris that came with the Nintendo Game Boy when it came out in 1989 and launched with the system. This is the Japanese version of Tetris. This is also the Japanese version of Tetris. Combined, all three of these are the similar game, but also different at the same time. And I'm going to show you why. The American version of Tetris that we all know and love and enjoyed over the years sounds a little something like this. This is the Tetris theme song that everybody knows. Once you select your game type, you can go down and pick from different versions of the music. A, B, A, or C, or off. A type is the one everybody knows about, so we're not really going to talk about that too much. But from here, you get to pick your level and the game begins. Remember that tune? You should. This Japanese copy here, though, this is the one we're going to look at in a moment. However, we're going to look at this Japanese copy first. Bulletproof software. Licensed to Nintendo. Once again, we have A type, B type, and A music, B music, off, and C type. Just like the American version. Which makes sense because, for the most part, most Japanese and American releases of Game Boy games were pretty much identical, outside some of the obvious changes to language and whatnot. However, we're going to put this one in now. As you can see, they look pretty similar to the one we just had in there. And we're just playing. But you're going to see something a little different this time. Bulletproof software and Nintendo. Notice it was a little quicker that time. Here comes the big part. Does that sound a little different to you? That's because it is different. This is what they call a Japanese minuet copy of Tetris. B-type, just like the American and other Japanese version of the cartridge. A-type, a little different. C-type, exactly the same. And off. This is where things get funny. This is the early edition of Tetris for Game Boy, as it was released in Japan, even before and prior to the American release. This is the 1.0 version of this game, and this particular copy is the only copy of the game between the three cartridges that contains this special theme song. Everybody calls the minuet version, or the minuet theme. Gameplay is otherwise exactly the same. So what's funny about this is, ever since this broke out, this cartridge has kind of gone up in price just for its oddity and just very version of the cartridge. There's a few key ways to know if you have a copy of this particular minuet version of the game, and I'm going to show you real quick here. This is the other copy. This is the one that sounds just like the American copy that everybody knows. However, this is also the more or less 1.1 version of the cartridge. And there are a few key differences to the front of these that'll help you kind of differentiate. You'll notice on the minuet version here, under all rights reserved, you can see the double L and all, how it's kind of over the structure of the top of this Russian building here. In the more common version, The ALL is a little to the left of that spire. You see that? Minuet, regular edition. Another part of this you can tell also is if you look at this in the light, you're going to see a code number down here. This one in particular is a 09. You're going to see that on the Minuet version as well. If you see a double L over the spire completely covering it, and you see a 09, then congratulations, you just found yourself a Minuet copy of Tetris. But on the far more common version, this is a 05A, for example. Now, there are different versions that have different numbers and so forth. There's a bit of a mixture. In this case, though, you'll see there's also a letter A. That's going to mean that this is the 1.1 or subsequent release after the original Minuet. So a lot of these Tetrises, when they first came out, will contain this Minuet copy. They're not extremely rare, but they are uncommon. They made a ton of these cartridges, but they are getting harder and harder to find. So if you ever happen to be upon these, take a closer look, and that way you can score yourself one. There's one other little thing I want to show you here, and this one's also a little tricky because you actually have to boot the thing up in order to see this difference. Now, you're going to notice when you boot this up that the licensing screen is going to be a little different. First, I'm going to show you the typical version that we all know. As you can see here, between bullet and proof, you have this little hyphen here, or up here. Okay, this is the typical theme song here. Okay, now we're going to put the Japanese Minuet version in. And it's going to be very quick, okay? So you got to look. No hyphen and no hyphen, and it's on. So for whatever reason, when they re-released this game as a version 1.1 or 1.2, I'm not really sure, honestly, what the differences are other than that this is 1.0. They changed that a little bit. Once again, you can hear that Minuet. That might be easier to see the game too. This is one of these IPS modded Game Boys, by the way. So you can see you can cycle through some presets, which I've created. And once again, here's the American version. You'll notice there's an A there, just like the common Japanese copy. Now, even the American versions of this cartridge have little differences. I know, like some of the carts that came with the original Game Boy, you're going to see what it'll say "Made in Japan" along the bottom here, and there also will be a blob chip inside. A blob chip is where they put that black epoxy over top of the chips. A lot of people think that means it's a bootleg version of the game, but no, it's a legit copy of the game. I can't imagine why you'd want to bootleg one of the most common Game Boy games ever created. You'll also see when you boot this up, there you got the hyphens in there too. One there and one there. And it also takes a little longer to boot up. So, keep your eyes open, guys. If you happen to find yourself in Little Tokyo, in the city, and you may have find some Japanese cartridges, or if you happen to end up in Japan, you may stumble upon a Minuet version of Tetris or Game Boy. I think it's a very cool little collectible to have. Real quick also, I think I almost forgot. People say that the Made in Japan here at the bottom seems to be a little thicker. That's something else to look forward to. I'm not sure if I really notice it, however. Honestly, the key way for me to notice when you want is to look at this ALL here. That seems to be the go-to way. And I know it might be a little hard to see in this video, but this is the Minuet right here on my right. You get the ALL. So keep an eye out. I was lucky enough, my brother ended up at some kind of a I don't know, anime convention or something of that nature. I don't know why he was on a work trip and something to do. And he happened to find this for me, and I am thrilled to have a copy because the aftermarket of this cartridge seems to be going up as people collect all the various versions of the games. So until next time, thanks for joining me, and I hope this was somewhat educational for all you Tetris fans out there. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time. Bye.